وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. Brothers and sisters in Islam, for those of us who are not living in a bubble, then we know that everything in the last several weeks has been aimed at getting the vote out. Elections, text messages to your phone, all types of spam. Vote for this person. Are you going to come out and vote for that person? Are you going to do this? Billboards everywhere, commercials, everything on social media revolves around who you are going to vote for. And so the cycle begins, the spin cycle, because the people that are at the top all have a record about which they lie and about which they accuse the other ones of lying. They overpromise, they underdeliver, they fearmonger against the other person. If you vote for this one, we're never going to have a democracy again. If you vote for that one, the wars are going to continue. This is going to happen. You're going to be paying an average of $6,000 more a year. This one is going to stop your reproductive rights. This one is going to kill children, and to the end of it. And it's an endless cycle of each one being pitted against the other so that we're forced into voting for somebody that's going to be less evil than the other one. And this is something that, they will tell you that this is the most consequential election of our lifetime, which is something that you heard in 2020. You heard it in 2016. You heard it in 2012. You heard it in 2008 because this is your first time. And it'll be the only time in your lifetime where there will be a black president. Come on, let's vote for change. Let's all have hope. And subhanAllah, it seems that no matter how many things change, the more they stay the same. And that maybe it's not as consequential as we believe it is. And maybe it is. Allah Azza wa Jal truly knows best. And anything that we would say about the future or what this candidate would do or the other one is speculation at the end of the day. But a Muslim is very, very different from everybody else in that our objective at all times, at each moment, is to look back and say, what does Allah Azza wa Jal want from me right now? Because it's going to vary from time to time. What does Allah want from me in this moment? Because my worldview is based on one thing, and that is, what am I doing to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? This life is temporary. And even if I have to deal with some temporary struggle and some temporary difficulty, if the outcome of that is the pleasure of Allah Azza wa Jal, then I'm okay. And even if that means putting my life on the line for whatever it is that I believe is better for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal, then that's what it takes because I'm a Muslim. And I realize that this life, this hayatul dunya is lahun wa la'ib wa zina. It's play, it's amusement. It's people bragging and boasting about their wealth and their children. And that is really short. So the question that we have to ask ourselves in this moment, because it is our reality, is to vote or not to vote. And if I go with the first option, who do I vote for? And so, obviously, this is a khutbah, and we don't have time to go into the difference of opinion amongst the scholars, but what I will say is this. We actually really should not be arguing about the permissibility of voting or not. Because this issue has been addressed by the major scholars of Islam, contemporary scholars of Islam, for the last 3 decades, with a whole lot of research behind it that shows that when you live in a society that will dictate upon you who is going to be your ruler based on that vote, then your participation in the system is not a validation of the system because it's going to happen with or without you. And so you participating, you voting for this person or that person is no more validating of the republic in which we live, that they call a democracy. It's no more validating of that system than it was the Prophet ﷺ's acceptance of his tribal protection from his uncle was a validation of tribalism. It is what it is. It's the system under which we live. And if you have the ability to lessen the harm that is going to come to Muslims based off of your speculation, if you have the ability to lessen that harm, then your participation is legitimate participation and could be necessary participation. So we're going to move beyond that, except that I just want to mention that this is from the classic study of Islam, and it's not just something new. Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah ta'ala, he talks about this issue of weighing the benefits of the harm, and specifically Muslim participation in non-Muslim governance and systems. Even when you have to do something that is corrupt to lessen the amount of corruption. And so he has a treatise where he deals with the statement of Allah Azza wa Jal, bringing us the story of Yusuf alayhi salam when he says, قَالَ جَعَلْنِي عَلَى خَزَائِنِ الْأَرْضِ إِنِّي حَفِيظٌ عَلِيمٌ. Yusuf requests to be put in charge of the treasuries. Notice here, he wants to control the economic situation. This is a deep point to consider. He wants to be in charge of the treasures. Inni hafidun alim. Why? He mentions because he will protect it and he's knowledgeable. He knows how to work that system. Now, this, Shaykh al-Islam says, is despite the fact that these people did not accept Islam. And the one that was above him is a kafir. The one that is above him is not just and will not embrace justice, which means that Yusuf is going to have to do some things that are corrupt because they're not distributing equally. No, the king's household, his soldiers, his subject, they're going to be the ones that are going to get the most, and the king himself, even though they're not deserving of that. And Yusuf has to play along with that game to do what? So that he can benefit the believers, like his family. And so you are tolerant of the lesser evil in this scenario to bring about a greater benefit. And Shaykh al-Islam has a long treatise on this, which we will not go into, but he also says something, and I want us to understand this point, because it's where we are today. And that is that when the situation gets like this, and you have 2 obligations in front of you that conflict, or 2 things that are haram in front of you, and you have to pick the lesser of those 2, this is a great cause of fitna amongst the ummah. And it causes discord because we oftentimes don't have the tools to properly navigate which of these 2 benefits is actually greater or which of these 2 harms is actually lesser. And that's due to 2 reasons. Either because we lack knowledge of the Sharia. So you get people coming together and they say, oh, vote for this person. None of them knows Islam. Or you get people that come together, mashallah, they're scholars of the deen and so forth, but they don't really understand the dynamics of U.S. politics. And so they say, vote for this person. Opposite side of the fence. All of them saying this is the greater benefit or this is the lesser evil. And so this causes discord. What we see amongst the Muslims today, we have to put this fire out. Because Allah Azza wa Jal commands us as Muslims, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. Hold on to the rope of Allah collectively. Don't be divided. And so you see Muslims that come together and they say, hey, we are endorsing a vote for Harris. And then the next ones come along and see black Muslims don't care about Palestinians. Yes, subhanallah. Okay, they said vote for Harris. No doubt. We know who she's a friend of. And we already seen what her politics had brought. Nothing but destruction. She can't even do lip service for the Muslim community to say, no, I would call for a ceasefire. Yani, subhanallah. 16,000 children confirmed dead. 95,000 people wounded. They're bombing, they're targeting children and women and so on and so forth. And yet, she might be, and Allah knows best, the lesser of two evils. And it doesn't just mean that because somebody endorses her that they don't care about Palestine. And then we have the other side. And so you see Muslims who endorse Trump. Yes, subhanallah. And so then we get the other side that say, see, they don't care about black people. Yeah. All of that is being said about what? About the Muslims. And then you have another campaign to abandon Biden that turned into an abandon Harris campaign. And so you got both of those sides coming and saying, see, this is political naivety. They don't understand how it really works. And that abandon Biden is actually a vote for Trump and so on. They're not politically savvy. In fact, they're fools. And guess what? Who wins in that situation? All it is Muslims fighting Muslims, and none of us looking at the bigger picture, which is وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ. We're going to allow ourselves in the Muslim community to be divided over who's going to be the next tyrant, because none of them people care about us, and we should not get it twisted. Nor should we think that that is the be-all, end-all. What if, as a Muslim community, we took a step back and we reevaluated some things? What if instead of wanting to have a seat at the table, we created our own table? What about that? What if we got to the point where we were actually united and we created our own block so that nobody's getting to any house or any hall up the street or anywhere else until they come through us? Our problem has been, historically, as a Muslim community, that we have been very unsophisticated in our approach to how we are going to leverage the influence that we could have as a community. Some of that is a misreading of the text, and some of that is just people who just got here yesterday, not looking at the people who have already been here and trying to do their own thing. What if we actually followed the dawah of the prophets of Allah? Because we say, as part of our dawah at-tawheedu awwalan, that our dawah, the fundamental of it, the fundamental principle of our dawah is that we call people to the worship of Allah alone. And that is absolutely the truth. But where did we get that Tawheed is only what we do? That was not the dawah of any of the prophets. None of them. Shu'aib, alayhi salam, Allah Azza wa Jal, when talking about his story in the Quran, he says, وَإِلَى مَدْيَنَ أَخَاهُمْ شُعَيْبًا قَالَ يَا قَوْمِ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ مَا لَكُم مِّنْ إِلَهٍ غَيْرُهُ. Shu'aib was sent to his people of Madian. And he said to them, my people. They were not believers. My people, worship Allah. You have no deity besides him. There is no true deity besides him. Worship him. He is your creator. Worship him alone. وَأَوْفُوا الْكَيْلَ وَالْمِيزَانَ وَلَا تَبَخَسُوا النَّاسَ أَشْيَاءَهُم. Allah told us this about his da'wah in the Quran. He didn't go into a bunch of detail about how long he waited, but at some point, he told his people, make sure that you give the measurements and the weights in the marketplace their proper due, and don't defraud people out of their property. SubhanAllah. Yani, if you look at the larger scale of things, this is not one of those issues necessarily where salvation is based on. Now, somebody can cheat, somebody is a Muslim, and he'll be forgiven. Even if he goes to Jahannam. Eventually, he's saved. But Allah chose to highlight this in the Quran for a reason. And that's because our da'wah does not stop at Tawheed. That's where it starts. But we need to ask ourselves the questions. Have we embraced secularism? Because what secularism teaches us is that there's a separation of church and state. Keep your Islam in the masjid. Have we embraced that? So this is where our Islam is. This is the domain. We want people to come to Islam, but we don't want to take Islam to them. That's where our problem lies. Because if we were really doing the da'wah of the Anbiya, we would be the people on the forefront. We would be known for taking care of our neighbors, for taking care of the vulnerable, for uplifting education, for eradicating poverty, for stopping violence. That's what we would be known for. The Prophet ﷺ did not wait to get to Medina, nor if you look at the revelation of the Quran, we don't find that the Prophet ﷺ waited to Medina to start talking about everything else. He called the Tawheed, and that was his call, to eliminate idolatry. But yet we see, أَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي يُكَذِّبُ بِالدِّينِ فَذَلِكَ الَّذِي يَدُعُّ الْيَتِيمَ وَلَا يَحُضُّ عَلَى طَعَامِ الْمِسْكِينِ. In Mecca, talking about taking care of the orphans, feeding the poor, feeding those in need. The man who came to the Prophet ﷺ from outside of Mecca when the Prophet ﷺ was still in hiding. He said, what are you? He said, I'm a prophet. He said, what's a prophet? He said, I was sent by Allah. He said, what did Allah send you with? He said, to break the idols, to establish the worship of Allah alone, wasilat rahim, and to keep the ties of kinship. What's that got to do with Tawheed? Yeah. Because the Prophet ﷺ's da'wah did not stop at Tawheed. It started with Tawheed. And this was in Mecca, meaning we don't have to wait for everybody to accept our message, to take the message that goes beyond Tawheed out to the people. Because sometimes people just need to eat before they listen to you. People need to feel safe before they listen to you. Ibrahim alayhi salam, what was his da'wah when he entered Mecca? رَبِّ اجْعَلْ هَذَا الْبَلَدَ آمِنًا وَجَنُبْنِي وَبَنِيَّ أَن نَعْبُدَ الْأَصْنَامَ. Oh Allah, make this city, Mecca, make it safe, make it secure, and protect me and my children, my offspring, from worshiping idols. Make it secure. رَبِّ اجْعَلْ هَذَا بَلَدًا آمِنًا وَارْزُقْ أَهْلَهُ مِنَ الثَّمَرَاتِ. Oh Allah, make this land secure and bless its people with fruits. Allow them to eat. We need safety. We need security. Where's the Muslim table? Where's our platform? Where's our agenda? We got to get behind everybody else because we're not doing it ourselves. So now we got to get behind the red and the blue. Ashab al-Himar wa Ashab al-Fil. The donkeys and the elephants. The Democrats and the Republicans. Why? Because we haven't created our own agenda. Why? Perhaps we become monks. Our worship is restricted to the masjid. And that is not the da'wah of the prophets. That is not what they did. And if we're going to be like them, if we're going to follow their way, then we are going to have to take Islam to the people and not wait for the people to come to Islam. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. Alhamdulillah wa kafa. Salatu wa salamu ala rasulih al-Mustafa wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala ma ba'd. Brothers and sisters in Islam, what I'm asking us to do is to not stop at who we vote for. I don't have an answer for that. I don't think that anybody can definitively say that one of them is better than the other. I don't think that any of them care about Muslims. What I do think, however, is that as long as we live in these here United States of America, that we cannot be viewed as being monks. That we have to be a part in some shape or fashion. We have to be a part of breaking the duopoly. That everything just goes back to Republican and Democrat. And if it has to stay that way, that at least they have to come through us. It's not going to happen overnight, but it is going to happen by us building up to a point where we are seen as being powerful. You know, the Black Panther Party was destroyed through COINTELPRO. But one of the things that got the community behind them was their breakfast program. They were famous for it. They fed people. That's Islam, by the way. Feeding people. And so what happened was when they came under attack from the media and from other sources, it was the community that protected them and the community that responded. Because they said, nah, we know good about them. What does our community say about us? Wallahi, if we are Muslims involved in harming other people and killing people, shame on you, wallahi. What are you doing in the name of Islam? But just think about if we were on the front lines. What if we were the ones that after school, we were manning the routes that the main routes that children take to get home. And so you saw a decrease in after-school violence, which is a real thing. And that could be attributed to the Muslims. It's not that hard. There's money out there for that. Somebody's got to organize it. We have to step up. But what if we could be part of that dawah of Ibrahim, of establishing a secure zone, safety, at a minimum, around schools, around masajid? What if we were known for feeding the Muslims? Alhamdulillah, we do have an organization that is visible with a real Muslim name, not some stuff so that people don't really know we Muslims. It's called Muslim Serve. And 90% of the people that they feed are non-Muslims, but we need more of that. We need more of that. We need to be known. Right now, if you ask, well, who's it that feeds the people in Philadelphia? Everybody's going to tell you the Catholics. In fact, the Muslims go to the Catholics so that they can get meals for their summer schools, like we used to do right here at UMM. Yeah. We go to the Catholic. And now the Catholics are offering kosher options to appease the rest of the community. But that's what they're known for. They're known for taking in orphans, Christians in general, not us. What if that was what created our platform, our agenda? As Muslims, can we get behind that? Can we get behind eradicating poverty? Didn't our Prophet ﷺ used to make a dua frequently? Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-kufr wa a'udhu bika min al-faqr. Oh Allah, I seek refuge in you from unbelief, from kufr. And I seek refuge in you from poverty. Wa a'udhu bika min a'dhab al-qabr. And I seek refuge in you from being punished in the grave. Prophet ﷺ sought refuge in Allah from poverty. Because poverty actually scientifically affects a person's ability to focus on anything complex. It takes cognitive bandwidth to be poor because a person is thinking about where their next meal is coming from, where they're going to sleep.
are they going to be able to pay their electric bill? How are they going to be able to take care of their children? And what the science shows is that poverty can have the effect on a person's cognition the same way as alcoholism. A person, they say, through poverty loses 13 IQ points. I mean, it's a deep thing to think about, but the Prophet, like some, regardless, sought refuge in Allah from poverty. And what do they call in this society the great equalizer? Education. Well, guess what? You know, and a lot of people, and you have to excuse me for this, but our brothers and sisters that come from overseas, and they're trying to figure out, why don't they just get a good education? They can get a good career. Newsflash. We live in poor neighborhoods. Poor neighborhoods means underfunded schools. Underfunded schools means by the time you're in 4th grade, they're already building a prison for you. Because you will be a functioning illiterate. And they'll push you through the system. So there you go. They can actually predict pretty accurately how many prisons they need to build based off of 4th grade scores. Now, what are we doing about that? We cannot continue to just say, no, we're just going to call the people to Tawheed. Yeah, we're going to call them to Tawheed, and we're going to give them what they need at the same time. Bi-idhnillah, to the best of our ability. And Allah Azza wa Jal will not hold us account to more than what we can bear. فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. Fear Allah to the best of your ability. The best of your ability means that you've expended that effort, that you put forth what you can, so that we as Muslims can be united. We can unite around this platform. We can unite around eradicating poverty, around feeding people, around education, around security. We can unite around those things. Here we are in a city where conservative estimates say that we have 40,000 Muslim children in the public school system. Yeah. That's between the school district and charter schools. 40,000 Muslim kids. How many Muslim children do we have in Islamic schools? Where is our robust Islamic school? People know, not too long ago, it was a dream. It was a dream if you were a young black child to be able to go to a Catholic school. So that's where you were going to get a good education, be able to advance in your career. Where is the dream of these young children today who are not Muslim to say, I want to go to that Muslim school? Even us as Muslims, and I ain't put my kids in Muslim school. Why? Wallahi, I believe that we are going to be questioned about this. We may be sinful because we haven't figured out a way to come together. We have. Allah has given us everything that we need to have a robust school. We've got principals, we've got educators of every field, we've got the money that can make it happen. We're just not united. And what is it that's dividing us? Well, currently, it's I can't get with them because they voting for Trump. And I can't get with them because they voting for Kamala. And these people are so stupid that they want to go with a third party and so on. And we're allowing ourselves as Muslims to fall into the trap of broader America. May Allah Azza wa Jal save us from that trap. May Allah Azza wa Jal aid us. May Allah Azza wa Jal call others to Islam through us. May Allah Azza wa Jal aid our brothers and sisters in Islam wherever they may be around the world. Allahumma ansur ikhwanana fi Gaza. Allahumma ansur ikhwanana fi Gaza. Allahumma ansur ikhwanana fi Gaza. May Allah Azza wa Jal aid our brothers and sisters in Gaza and Palestine as a whole, in Lebanon and Sudan and everywhere else where the Muslims are being oppressed. ربنا اغفر لنا ولإخواننا الذين سبقونا بالإيمان ولا تجعل في قلوبنا غلا للذين آمنوا ربنا إنك رؤوف رحيم. اللهم اصلح لنا ديننا الذي هو عصمة أمرنا واصلح لنا دنيانا التي فيها معاشنا واصلح لنا آخرتنا التي إليها معادنا واجعل الحياة زيادة لنا في كل خير والموت راحة لنا من كل شر. Brothers and sisters in Islam, before we start the salah, whether you choose to vote or not is obviously your decision. Do what you think is most pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. My advice to those of you who are going to go to the polls is to look like a Muslim when you do so. They should see us. They should start to recognize that the Muslims can form a bloc. And the reality remains that we live in this system. Let them see us. Let them know that we are here. I was at the polls on Tuesday. Out of the hundreds of people that were there, besides myself, I recognized 2 other visible Muslims. That can't be the case. We make up too many people in this society, and if they think that they can get away with saying whatever they want about Islam without answering any of our demands, then they will continue to do so until we show them otherwise. May Allah Azza wa Jalla show us the truth is truth and allow us to follow it. May He show us falsehood as falsehood and allow us to avoid it. Wa aqim as-salah.